Get a lot of questions now about are you excited with the start of practice? I'm 58 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. And back in the day, October 15th was that hard start of practice date. And prior to October 15th, you were in conditioning and weight training, and you had about 2.5, 3 weeks to get your team ready for your first exhibition game. And there were double sessions, and you had no idea what you had, and it was the start of practice. But I think because I think one of the best rules that the NCAA has adjusted over the course of the last several years has been the in-season, off-season workouts. There was a time when European professional basketball was killing our college kids because we just did not have access to them. And so now where we get 8 hours a week, including now 4 hours of basketball instruction in the off season in the fall, we've been able to get a lot done. And so the differences now would be we're going to practice 4 or 5 times a week instead of maybe 2 or 3 shorter practices to get our time allotted in. So yet and still, it's still exciting, to kind of get started and to be able to see what we have, see what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are. I was just upstairs before coming down here and fighting with my assistant coaches about how we're going to cover a Horns ball screen this year versus how we covered it last year and what adjustments we want to try to make, and try to get those guys to explain to me why I was the only one in the room that thought we should cover it a certain way, and they all thought we should cover it a different way. And guess what? We're going to cover it a different way until it doesn't work, and then we're going to go back and cover it my way. So either way, it's going to. But that's the fun part of this time of the year. Again, you're just experimenting right now to see what you have. The attitude has been good. Our something that we've been sort of holding on to has been unfinished business. And it's really unusual to have unfinished business be sort of something that the team is holding on to when you're coming off a conference championship, the third in 58 years. You wouldn't think that would be, unfinished business. But I think it has more to do with some of the new guys that weren't part of the team last year, Samir Dowdy, D'Angelo Purifoy, Austin Wiley, as far as being able to play, Javon McCormick coming in. And then I think a reminder that so many of our guys that had such an impact on our season has still coming from the land of being overlooked. I know where they're going to pick us. I know what the preseason magazines say, and I love it for Auburn basketball. I think it's phenomenal that we're a preseason top 10 or top 15 team. I think it's great. I used to spend my whole career fighting to get somebody on the cover of Street and Smith or have blue ribbon basketball pick us any place but near the bottom. So I think that's all great. It helps in recruiting. It excites our fans. I'm not running from that at all. I'm retweeting that. I'm sending that out there. Read about it. But that's absolutely not the way our team feels. In the sense that, Jared or Bryce, they're going to get some recognition as a pretty good college backcourt, but they get no recognition. When it comes to the pros, the NBA, no, that would be for guys that are 6'5" and 6'6". They've got unfinished business. I don't care where they get ranked in the college game. Several of our guys want to try to, play different roles this year, because they're a year older and maybe a year better. Again, along the lines of some unfinished business. We got to be good early. We got to be better earlier this year than we were last year. That's a fact. We got to be a pretty good basketball team some point in December, maybe mid-December. But boy, in November we were okay. We were playing hard, but we weren't hitting on a lot of cylinders. So we don't have that luxury this year because of South Alabama coming in and Washington coming in early. If we can start off the season with a couple of wins, trust me, I'm not as worried about going to Maui because those two teams will help us understand whether or not we're ready to go to Maui and be competitive. And then of course Maui will be like an Elite Eight. That'll be like what's going to be in March. So, we'll find out a lot. So we got to try to be good early. And if we're not great early, it won't be because we are resting on our laurels or because we were picked high. It'll be because we're not as quick as we were last year. It'll be because we didn't defend as well as we did last year. It's because a couple of the guys that we lost were really unselfish and very, very productive analytically because they always went to their strengths, stayed away from their weaknesses. Will we be as good a free throw shooting team as we were last year? That's a huge part of what we're trying to do. So far, about the only thing I can see that I would be concerned about would be assist-turnover ratio. Right now, we're turning the ball over more than what I would like to. Part of the reason is we got a better inside game than we had before. With a better inside game with Austin Wiley and being a little bit more traditionally big, you're going to turn it over a little bit more, not only trying to get it there, but once you get it there. And the game, obviously has very much evolved to spread, threes and dunks, and we were built for that. The NBA's playing that way. We've got to take advantage of our size on the inside without turning the basketball over. So far, that's the only thing I can see negative as we kind of head into starter practice.
Think about where you were 4 years ago or so when you first got here and when you first looked at the roster. And you see these guys out there now. Is it a little bit surreal sometimes? Does it come this far?
It's gratifying. I wanted to bring credibility to Auburn men's basketball. And I think it's the players that chose to come here that did that, and the staff. It's because we got good players. We're going to have a much better television package this year because we have good players. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. At the same time, for me, that group that I inherited when I got here was so special. And they laid the groundwork for progress that was made every year. That team won 3 games in the SEC tournament for the first time since 1985. How? I can't even begin to tell you how. I go back and I watch tape of Devin Waddell guarding Towns, and I just can't scratch my head. It just tells you that anything's possible. That was like, okay, just sort of like last year's team winning the championship a little bit. Anything's possible. And then, our second year we beat Alabama and Kentucky at home and back-to-back, and it hadn't been a while since we'd beaten Kentucky. And so even though that's not a milestone, it was progress. And that second year team could have been pretty good, but we got really decimated with injuries. And then our third year we started 5 freshmen and we were really young, and that was the beginning of the rebuild. And yet at the end of the year we was disappointed with only 18 wins. We thought we should have done better. And I felt like that team was a postseason team. Said at the beginning of the year it didn't get there. Last year I felt like we were an NCAA tournament team. I didn't think we were a league championship team. And this year I feel like we're an NCAA tournament team again. So it feels good to be where we're at. But there's a reason, I'm not making this up, I heard it said before, so I don't know who to quote it to, but there's a reason why the windshield in your car, the front window is really big, but there's a rear view mirror that's much, much smaller. You could still look back to that rear view mirror because you have to and you need to, but we're looking forward. There's a reason why we had our ring ceremony at the football game in September. When you come back to Auburn Arena, there'll be a banner hanging up there, but we won't be raising it. It'll be there. We've moved past that, and I wanted it done before the start of the season.
You talked about just how things will change, also having Austin Wiley in there, but seeing everything he's been through, how hungry is he to get on the floor and do something, contribute?
Yeah, he's really hungry, but I think I'd even take it back to April and May in the sense that we got to remember Austin could have gone pro. He would have been drafted in the second round, most likely. And he would have been probably signed for whatever it would have been. Look at where middle second-round guys would be making right now. It's north of $1 million or $2 million. But he wanted to come back to Auburn because he wanted to be a first-rounder and really be able to set himself up for a better contract, but also because he's got unfinished business. He just does. So he's really hungry. I think the other thing, too, though, is that there is some rust on him. That's what happened when he went to the NBA trials, because Okay, his first year he only played half a season because he reclassified and was eligible at midseason, which was great. But he only had half a year of basketball. And then last year he was ruled ineligible, missed the whole season. So I would say that there's probably got to be some rust on him when you only play a half a year in about 2.5 years. But he's going to shake that rust off pretty good, and you'll enjoy watching him. We're gonna practice today a little bit and hit today, if y'all want to stick around a little bit, and if you can, and you'll get a chance to see him play.
I remember that freshman year after one game he came in and said, and everybody criticized me for never using the big man throwing it inside. And
His first touch. It was his first touch, yeah.
Now you're going to have him know what you've got. How much do you change your own philosophy, or how do you been dealing with that?
I am traditionally more comfortable with small ball. It's just over a period of 23 or 24 years as head coach. I don't even know how many years I've been head coach. Cody was on it. Malzahn asked how many years he'd be head coach. Those sports information guys have it. They know it. So I've been 23 or 24 years.
25.
Going on 25, really?
Is that right? I have 24, that's fine. Okay, 24.
All right.
I had 25, that's fine.
I think small ball, most because of the players I've been able to recruit. You're not able to recruit an Austin Wiley very often, but he's a legacy child because of Vicky and Aubrey. Yet I had a team that got one game from the Final Four at Tennessee, and it was the biggest team I had. It was the team that was traditionally built. So I keep going back to that team with Brian Williams and Wayne Chisholm and J.P. Prince and Scotty Hobson and Stephen Pearl and Bobby Mays, that group there. And so we figured something out within the framework of what we do with the biggest team I ever had at Tennessee. So I know we can play both. And Austin is such a good athlete, and he's so fast that we won't have to slow down. The only difference with I won't be playing a pick and pop 5-man.
Can you talk about Jared? He looks like he's gotten some strength more.
Yeah.
He's certainly got 2 years of experience.
Yeah, I want it. My hat's off to our guys at War Eagle Productions. I guarantee you, if you're at CBS or if you're at ESPN, and I spent time working in Bristol, if you look at some of the stuff that our guys produce and put out there, I don't see anything better in the world of sports. So 2 weeks ago, when we cut that Toomer's Corner video, which we showed on Saturday of the LSU game, on Friday, our guys had a sand volleyball workout. We had a workout in the sand pit. And Jeff came out there and he, videotaped our guys in the sand. I don't know if you all noticed it, but I'm sorry, you're not paying attention if you didn't. Did you see our guys' bodies? How strong they looked? How cut they were? How fit they were? Damon Davis, our strength and conditioning coach, and the commitment of our players, they do a tremendous job. Jared came in looking like Steve Urkel. That's what his body was like. Okay, long, kind of gangly, whatever. He's a man now. His work, his commitment, so on and so forth. So I do think we're stronger. Now, will we be able to take that strength and use it physically? Jared's got to figure out how to play great defense without fouling. The 2 fouls he picked up in the Charleston game are flat, all in his memory. He didn't play well in San Diego in the NCAA tournament. That is strong in his mind. And so that's part of the unfinished business a little bit too. We went as Jared went. That's good and bad. I would imagine most teams go and not go as their quarterback goes and not goes. I got to get away from that. The season can't be on Jared Harper. Like, if Jared, you play well, we're going to win. If you don't, we're going to lose. But he's in a good spot, shoots it, puts it on the floor, passes it, got to defend without fouling.
What he means to this team in terms of pairing him with Austin and how you work that inside.
I don't know how much he will play with Austin, just by virtue of where they're best, where they're both best. There could be some injuries or things like that could change that a little bit. But I have a pick and pop 5-man and I have a post up 5-man, and we'll use them both in everything that we do. And so Anthony's healthy; he's back, and he's a real dimension. I mean, he is an absolute nightmare matchup because for his size, he plays as big as anybody in the country. He's an amazing rim protector. and he is one of our best three-point shooters. He can score inside and out. Around the basket, one of his greatest strengths, and this just goes unnoticed or discussed, is if you throw it to him either at the rim or in traffic, he catches it and goes up so quickly. His feet are always ready to finish, that he's really productive around the basket. People think just because you get that ball inside that it's over. First of all, a lot of times it's a tough catch. Second of all, a lot of times those guards will throw it to you and be like, here, you put it up with all these big monsters in there. Then it's not always an easy finish. But because Anthony gets up so quickly, has got such great footwork and play above the rim, he finishes everything around the basket, and he can step out and knock down his shot. He's got a shot fake, put the ball in the bounce move going on right now too. So tremendous offensive flexibility to have a center that you can post up and a center that you can stretch and pop and shoot the three ball. I want to take a couple more because you guys know I'm always available to you. I know we're getting started, but come back tomorrow if you want to.
What does Javon McCormick bring to you guys? What have you seen out of him so far?
Javon McCormick is got a chance to be one of our more valuable players in this sense, and I don't mind I don't tell this story. One of the hardest things I had to do this spring was to replace Davion Mitchell. Okay, just absolutely did not see Davion leaving coming. Love Davion, terrific player. And we were so sad to see him go. But then try to recruit to Jared Harper and Bryce Brown as a junior and a senior. What freshman wants to come into that? So we spent a lot of time in the transfer market. And we couldn't find transfers that wanted to come into that and compete with those two guys. And I don't blame them. And we lost really good players to teams that go to the Final Four, like on a regular basis, because Auburn had better players than they did, at least at those positions. It didn't bother Javon. Javon knew what we had. He wanted to compete against them. He wanted to be in position if one of them got injured. And he wanted to play next to both of them if that's what he was. He wasn't afraid and to contribute. He brings quickness. He's an outstanding passer. Really good defender. An improved shooter. Never misses a free throw when he gets there. But he was your classic mid-major player. That's where he was going to go, mid-major. Now he's got an opportunity to play every night on a high major level. But because he fills such an important niche, that depth that he's going to provide us, how he goes really could determine how far we go. That's how important a guy like that is.
I wanted to ask you about the 2019 class. You're going to have a lot of turnover after this year. How important is that class, and how do you feel about how it's coming around so far?
Well, I can't talk specifically about recruiting, but obviously we've got a roster of mostly upperclassmen and good players. And so there was a lot of opportunity to go out there and recruit in the 19 class. And oftentimes I find that that opening and those opportunities actually pave the way for more success in recruiting than just championships. If you have championships and return a bunch of young players, a lot of prospects, with the exception of the kind of guys that Kentucky recruits or Kansas or Duke or North, which we typically can't get involved with, those kids aren't worrying about the competition because it's one and done. Those guys are going to be moving fast. The guys that we can recruit do need to look at your roster a little bit more carefully. So now that we have opportunity, I think things are going well in recruiting. And they need to go well because we've got a lot of guys to replace over the next couple of years.